Admiral Park stood on the bridge of his flagship when the distress signal came through. The message was broken, filled with static and screaming. He heard explosions. He heard children crying. Then he heard his daughter's voice, Lieutenant Park, shouting coordinates before the transmission died. The colony world of Nu had gone silent. Park was not a man who showed emotion. He had served Earth for 35 years. He had negotiated with alien species who thought humans were nothing more than clever animals. He had smiled through insults. He had bowed when protocol demanded it. But when that signal cut to static, something inside him went cold. His fleet jumped to Nu in 4 hours. What they found would change humanity forever. The planet was burning, not in patches, not in sections, but everywhere. The Dominion had used orbital plasma cannons, the kind designed to crack open military bunkers. They had used them on schools, on hospitals, on apartment buildings where families slept. 4,200,000 humans had lived on Nu. When Park's ships arrived, they found only ash and silence. Captain was the first to land on the surface. He walked through what used to be the capital city with his weapon drawn, looking for survivors. There were none. He found a playground where the swings still moved in the hot wind. He found a school where the walls had melted inward. He found his wife's identification card in the rubble of their home, half burned but still showing her smiling face. His 2 sons, ages 7 and 12, were never found at all. Did not scream. He did not cry. He simply picked up his wife's card, put it in his pocket, and returned to his ship. When his crew asked if he was all right, he said nothing. His eyes said everything. Doctor led the investigation team. She was trained to study alien life with scientific curiosity, but there was no curiosity in her work that day. She collected evidence. She documented the weapon signatures. She confirmed what everyone already knew, but no one wanted to say. This was not an accident. This was not a battle gone wrong. This was extermination. They had planned this. They had waited until the human defense fleet was on routine patrol 3 systems away. They had jammed communications. They had surrounded the planet with 40 warships. And then they had burned everything. When presented her findings to Admiral Park, her hands did not shake. Her voice did not waver. She was a professional. But when she finished her report, she asked one question: "What are we going to do?" Park did not answer, not yet. The Galactic Concord called an emergency session on the neutral station of Harmony Prime. 12 species sent representatives. Humanity sent Ambassador Han, a woman known for her patience and her perfect diplomatic smile. She had spent 20 years building relationships with alien governments. She had fought for humanity's place in the galaxy through words, not weapons. The representative was a tall creature with scaled skin and 4 arms. His name was High Commander, and he spoke with the confidence of someone who had never faced consequences. He called the destruction of Nu a regrettable border incident. He said the humans had provoked them by existing too close to their territory. He offered compensation, 500 credits for each human life lost. 500 credits, the cost of a used shuttle engine. Ambassador Han stood to respond. The chamber fell silent. Everyone expected her to argue, to plead, to negotiate for better terms. That was what humans did. That was why the galaxy considered them harmless. Instead, she asked a simple question: will the Conquered authorize military action against the Dominion for the crime of genocide? The vote was quick. 12 species, 12 votes. They had trade agreements with 8 of them. They had military alliances with 3. Only humanity voted for action. 11-1. The matter was closed. The Conquered accepted this compensation offer. Justice, they said, had been served. Han nodded slowly. She did not argue. She did not beg. She simply gathered her documents and walked out of the chamber. Several alien diplomats tried to stop her, to offer sympathy, to explain that this was how the galaxy worked. She ignored them all. 1 week later, Admiral Park stood before the United Earth Council. The chamber was full. Every military commander, every political leader, every scientist who mattered was present. They had all seen the footage from New. They had all heard the final transmissions. They had all read the Concord's verdict. Park placed something on the table. It was a military badge, burned and bent. His daughter's badge. The one she had earned when she graduated from the academy. The one she wore when she died trying to organize an evacuation that never came. For 120 years, Park said, we played by their rules, we smiled at their insults, we accepted their conditions. We proved again and again that humanity was civilized. He paused. New had 4 million people. The youngest was 3 months old. The oldest was 94. They killed them all in 6 hours. The galaxy gave us 500 credits per life and called it justice. He looked around the chamber. Every face was hard. Every eye was cold. I am not here to ask for permission, Park said. I am here to tell you what happens next. We are done smiling. We are done bowing. We are done proving ourselves to species who see our children as acceptable losses. He picked up his daughter's badge. The galaxy wanted to know what humans are capable of. They are about to find out. No one in the chamber disagreed. The stars had wept for New. Now they would weep for someone else. 3 months passed after the massacre of New. The galaxy watched humanity and saw nothing unusual. Human traders still visited alien ports. Human diplomats still attended Concord meetings. Human ships still followed the old routes between stars. They laughed about it in their war councils. The humans, they said, had accepted their place. They were wrong. On Earth, every shipyard worked day and night. Factories that once made civilian goods now produced weapons. Scientists who studied alien biology now studied alien weaknesses. The entire planet had become a machine with one purpose, and that purpose was kept secret from everyone outside human space. Colonel O was the architect of what came next. He was a quiet man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had spent 40 years preparing for a war that everyone hoped would never come. His office was filled with plans labeled Project Reckoning, and he had updated them every single year. Now those plans were finally being used. They believe we are weak because we did not strike back immediately, told his staff. They think our silence means surrender. They do not understand that silence can also mean preparation. Intelligence Chief had spent 15 years placing human agents throughout space. They worked as traders, as mechanics, as servants in households. They watched. They listened. They waited. When sent the activation signal, 300 sleeper agents woke up and began sending information home. The data was extraordinary. Ship movements, defense codes, patrol schedules, the location of every military base in their empire. They had never considered humans a threat, so they had never bothered to watch for human spies. This mistake would cost them everything. Doctor worked in a laboratory deep underground. She had samples from the New massacre, including genetic material left behind on their weapons. She studied their biology like a hunter studies prey. She found that could not see certain light frequencies. She found that their hearing was sensitive to specific sounds. She found that their scales, which they believed made them invincible, had gaps at 17 different points on their bodies. They think they are perfect warriors, said to her team. They are not. They are just another species with weaknesses, and now we know all of them. In a secret facility on Mars, Engineer completed his greatest and most terrible creation. It was called a planet cracker, a weapon designed to break a world in half. Humanity had signed treaties promising never to build such things. Humanity had believed such weapons were unnecessary. New changed that belief. Looked at his creation with mixed feelings. He was proud of the engineering. He was horrified by the purpose. When Admiral Park visited the facility, asked him directly, "Will we actually use this?" Park looked at the weapon for a long time. "I hope not," he finally said. But hope is not a strategy, not anymore. Captain had changed in the 3 months since finding his wife's burned identification card. He no longer laughed. He no longer joined his crew for meals. He spent his hours in the ship's combat simulator, practicing attack runs over and over until his scores were perfect. When Admiral Park offered him command of the First Strike Fleet, accepted without hesitation. His fleet was nicknamed the Widhorse Brigade. Every captain, every pilot, every marine had lost someone on new. They did not need speeches about duty or honor. They needed only a target. They made their final mistake 6 months after the massacre. Emboldened by humanity's apparent submission, High Commander sent an ultimatum to Earth. The humans, he declared, must surrender 3 more colony worlds as reparation zones. They had 30 days to comply or face consequences. Expected negotiation. He expected begging. He expected humans to behave like humans always behaved. Ambassador Han requested one final session before the Galactic conquered. The alien representatives gathered, expecting to witness humanity's humiliation. Instead, they witnessed something else entirely. Han walked to the center of the chamber. She was not smiling. She had not smiled in 3 months. 120 years ago, she began, humanity joined this conquered. We followed your rules. We respected your traditions. We believed that civilization meant compromise, that patience would bring justice, that being good would protect us. She paused. We were naive. She removed her diplomatic credentials and placed them on the floor. You asked us to accept payment for our murdered children. We refused and you ignored us. You asked us to forgive genocide. We cannot. You asked us to remain civilized. Her voice dropped lower. We decline. Before anyone could respond, alarms began screaming across the station. The Concord's communication officers reported something impossible. Every human vessel in the galaxy had just activated weapon systems that were not supposed to exist. Ships that looked like cargo freighters were revealing hidden cannons. Passenger liners were deploying fighter craft. Even the human ambassador's shuttle, parked peacefully in the station's hangar, had open panels showing missile tubes. High Commander jumped to his feet. This is an act of war. Han turned to face him. No, she said quietly, this is a response to one. Across space, human agents began their work. Communication satellites went dark. Defense stations reported system failures. Military bases found their doors locked from the outside. They scrambled to understand what was happening, but every message they sent was intercepted. Every order they gave was countered. Admiral Park's face appeared on every screen in the Dominion. He spoke calmly, without anger, without threat. He simply stated facts. You killed 4,200,000 humans on new. You offered us 500 credits per life. You called it justice. He paused. We disagree. In 72 hours we will arrive at Prime. We suggest you prepare. The transmission ended with a countdown. The galaxy had called humanity gentle. The galaxy had called humanity weak. The galaxy had called humanity civilized. The galaxy was about to learn what humans really were. The people of Prime woke to darkness. Their sun, which had risen every morning for 1 billion years, did not appear. Instead, the sky was filled with black shapes, thousands of satellites that humans had launched in secret over the past 3 months. These satellites blocked the light. They created an artificial night that covered the entire planet. Colonel O's voice echoed from every speaker on the. It was calm and clear and terrifying. For 6 hours, the children of Nu lived in darkness while your ships burned their world. You gave them no warning. You gave them no mercy. You gave them no hope. He paused. Now you will experience what they felt. The darkness will last 72 hours. Then we arrive. Use this time to remember what you did. Use this time to prepare for what comes next. The High Command panicked. They ordered their fleet to attack the satellites. Human ships appeared from nowhere and destroyed the vessels before they could fire a single shot. They ordered ground forces to shoot the satellites down. The satellites were too high, too well protected. They ordered evacuation. There was nowhere to go. For 3 days, Prime lived in fear. Captain led the first strike against the first armada. The enemy fleet was massive, over 200 warships, the pride of the Dominion. They had never lost a major battle. They believed themselves invincible. The battle lasted 4 hours. Human ships moved differently than ships expected. They were faster, more coordinated, more precise. Every weakness that Doctor had discovered was exploited. Human weapons targeted the gaps in armor. Human fighters flew patterns that sensors could not track. Human tactics changed every few minutes, never giving the enemy time to adapt. Commanded from the bridge of his battleship, the Indomitable, he gave orders without emotion. When a cruiser exploded on his screen, he felt nothing. When his crew cheered a successful strike, he did not join them. He had only one thought in his mind: his wife's face on that burned identification card. His sons, never found. When the first armada was destroyed, finally spoke to his crew. That was for the families. The rest is for the future. Major led the ground invasion of military bases. His Marines were not like soldiers the galaxy had seen before. They did not charge in screaming. They did not make threats or demands. They moved in perfect silence, communicating through hand signals, appearing from shadows like ghosts. They had always believed that war was about noise and glory. They shouted battle cries. They challenged enemies to single combat. They made displays of strength. Human Marines made no displays at all. They simply completed objectives with terrifying efficiency. One commander surrendered his base after watching human Marines defeat his entire garrison in 18 minutes. "They did not speak," he reported later. "Not one word. They just looked at us with those flat eyes and did their work. I have never been so afraid." The Galactic Concord demanded that humanity cease hostilities. They sent official messages. They made public statements. They threatened economic sanctions. Admiral Park responded with a single sentence: "You had your chance to deliver justice. You chose not to. We will deliver it ourselves." The other species of the galaxy watched the war with growing horror. They had been powerful, respected, feared. Humanity had been considered harmless, a young species still learning the ways of the galaxy. Now everything was reversed. Ships began leaving any system near human space. Governments sent private messages to Earth, promising friendship, promising support, promising anything that might keep human warships away from their worlds. Lieutenant Shin led a special mission to capture Station, the largest military base outside there. Her team of 12 infiltrated through maintenance tunnels that security had never bothered to monitor. Why would they? No enemy had ever tried to capture. It was considered impossible. His team moved through the station for 6 hours before anyone knew they were there. They disabled weapons. They locked doors. They took control of life support. When they finally revealed themselves, the garrison of 3,000 soldiers found themselves trapped in their own base, surrounded by 12 humans who held all the power. Gave them a choice: surrender peacefully and be treated fairly, or resist and die. The commander chose surrender. What happened next confused the galaxy. Human forces did not execute the prisoners. They did not torture them for information. They gave them food and medical care. They treated their wounds. They allowed them to contact their families. Admiral Park explained the strategy to his officers. "We are not here to destroy them. We are here to defeat them. There is a difference. When this war ends, they will know 2 things. They will know that we could have killed them all, and they will know that we chose not to. That choice will haunt them forever." On the 68th hour of darkness, the satellites over Prime began to disperse. Light returned to the planet slowly, like a sunrise that lasted hours. They emerged from their shelters and looked up at the sky. It was filled with human warships, hundreds of them. They hung in orbit like silent judges, weapons ready, waiting. They did not fire. The message was clear: we could end you right now. We are choosing not to. Remember this moment. Remember what mercy looks like from a species you tried to exterminate. The Emperor broadcast a message to his people. The humans have come. May our ancestors forgive us for what we did to deserve this. The war had barely begun, and they already knew they would lose. But losing was not the worst part. The worst part was knowing that their survival depended entirely on human restraint. And restraint, they were learning, could be withdrawn at any moment. 6 months after the war began, the Dominion was broken. Their fleets were destroyed. Their military bases were occupied. Their colonies had surrendered one by one, choosing human rule over destruction. The species that had once terrorized half the galaxy now begged for peace. The Emperor sent a message to the Galactic Conquered, pleading for intervention. He asked the same species who had dismissed the new massacre to now save his people. The conquered representatives listened. They debated. They voted. No one voted to help the galaxy had learned something important. Humanity remembered who stood with them and who stood against them. Every species that had voted to accept 500 credits per human life was now very quiet, very careful, very polite. Human forces occupied worlds, but they did not burn them. Admiral Park had given strict orders. No massacres, no revenge killings, no random destruction. Humanity would prove it was better than its enemy. This proof would be more painful for them than any bomb. Governor managed the occupied territories. She was a small woman with a soft voice who had once been a school teacher. Now she dismantled an empire with paperwork and patience. Military academies were closed. Warrior traditions were banned. Children learned new history lessons, ones that described their ancestors not as glorious conquerors, but as criminals who had murdered billions across the galaxy. "We are not trying to kill them," explained to her staff. "We are trying to change them. A dead enemy is forgotten. A shamed enemy remembers forever." Captain continued to fight even after most battles were won. He volunteered for every dangerous mission. He pushed himself harder than any other officer. His crew worried about him. They saw a man who had found revenge but not peace. One night, his first officer found him alone on the observation deck, staring at the stars. "Captain, when will it be enough?" Did not answer for a long time. "I killed thousands of them," he finally said. "I destroyed their ships, I took their worlds, and none of it brings my family back. None of it fills the empty space inside me." "Then why do you keep fighting?" Turned to face his officer. His eyes were empty. "Because I do not know how to stop." Chaplain Ryu served aboard the flagship as spiritual advisor. She had comforted many soldiers during the war. She had prayed with the dying and counseled the grieving. But her hardest conversation was with Admiral Park. "Where does justice end and vengeance begin?" she asked him. Park considered the question. "Justice is what the galaxy refused to give us. Vengeance is what we could take but choose not to. We walk the line between them every day." "Are we walking it well?" The Admiral looked out at the occupied below. "Ask me again when the war is over." The war seemed almost finished when the crisis came. Commander No had lost his entire extended family on Nu, his parents, his siblings, his wife and 3 children, his aunts, uncles, and cousins. 47 people who shared his blood, all burned to ash in 6 hours. Had fought bravely during the war. He had earned medals and respect, but inside a darkness grew. Occupation was not enough for him. Shame was not enough. He wanted extinction. He gathered followers who felt the same. They were not many, but they were enough. They made a plan to steal Engineer's planet cracker weapon and use it on Prime. 12 billion lived on that world, wanted them all dead. Intelligence Chief discovered the plot 3 days before it would happen. She reported to Admiral Park immediately. Park found in a hangar, surrounded by armed supporters, the planet cracker weapon loaded onto a ship. Human soldiers faced human soldiers, weapons drawn on both sides. "Step aside," Admiral said. His voice was calm, but his hands shook. "This is necessary." Necessary for what? For justice. This is not justice. This is murder on a scale that would make us worse than them. They killed everyone I loved. Yes, they did, and I understand your pain better than you know. Park stepped forward, unarmed, hands open. My daughter died on Nu. I dream about her every night. I wake up reaching for my communicator to call her before I remember she is gone. Sweppen wavered slightly. But if we destroy their world, we become them. We become the species that solves problems with genocide. And then what was the point of any of this? What did our families die for? They died for nothing. The galaxy let them die for nothing. Then make their deaths mean something. Park was now standing directly in front of Sweppen. They will live knowing that we could have killed them all. Every day, they will wake up owing their existence to human mercy. Their children will learn that humans are better than. They will learn it. Their entire species will carry that shame forever. That is a worse punishment than death. Began to cry. The weapon dropped from his hands. It hurts so much, it never stops hurting. Park embraced the younger man. I know, it will never stop, but we do not have to let the pain make us into monsters. The planet Cracker was secured, and his followers were confined to quarters, not prison cells. They were broken people, not criminals. They needed healing, not punishment. The Emperor accepted humanity's surrender terms: complete disarmament, war crime tribunals, and reparations, not in credits but in service. Workers would rebuild Nu as a memorial world. This work would take generations. As the Emperor signed the documents, he looked at Admiral Park. Why did you spare us, after what we did? Park thought of his daughter. He thought of 4 million graves that would never be filled. Because someone had to be better, he said. This time it was us. 20 years had passed since the war ended. The memorial world of Nu was complete at last. Where cities once burned, gardens now grew. Where ash once covered the ground, stone monuments now stood. 4,200,000 names were carved into walls that stretched for kilometers, each name representing a life stolen, a story ended too soon. Admiral Park walked slowly through the memorial. He was 78 years old now, retired, his uniform replaced with simple clothes. 2 children walked beside him, the son and daughter of his surviving son who had been off-world when the massacre happened. They had never met their aunt, but they knew her story. Everyone knew her story now. Grandfather, his granddaughter asked, why do people still come here after so many years? Park stopped before a section of wall. He found his daughter's name and touched it gently. Because memories keep people alive. As long as we remember them, they are never truly gone. The galaxy had changed in 20 years. Humanity was no longer a junior member of the Galactic Concord. They held permanent veto power over all major decisions. No resolution could pass without human approval. The species that had once dismissed humanity as harmless now consulted Earth before making any important move. The phrase "remember Nu" had become a warning throughout known space. When tensions rose between species, when diplomats argued and threats were made, someone would always say those 3 words. The arguments would stop. The threats would fade. No one wanted to make humanity angry again. Dr. Now led the Galactic Genocide Prevention Institute. The organization she built monitored every species for signs of mass violence. Their agents were everywhere, watching, listening, ready to report any threat against civilian populations. In 20 years, they had prevented 11 potential atrocities before they could happen. Often thought about the commander she had interrogated after the war. She had asked him why they killed the children of Nu. His answer still echoed in her mind. They were human. What more reason did we need? That answer drove her work. She would make sure no one ever had to hear those words again. Captain had retired immediately after the war ended. He had found no peace in victory, no comfort in revenge. For years, he struggled with darkness inside himself. But slowly, with help from Chaplain Ryu and others who cared about him, he began to heal. Now he lived on the memorial world of Nu. He tended a garden near the spot where his home had stood. Every morning he planted flowers. Every evening he talked to his wife and sons as if they could hear him. Perhaps they could. He liked to think so. When visitors came to the memorial, they sometimes saw an old man kneeling in a garden, speaking softly to no one visible. They did not disturb him. They understood. Ambassador Han had returned to diplomacy after the war. She was known throughout the galaxy as the Iron Voice. Her words carried weight that no human diplomat had ever possessed before. When she spoke, species listened. She never smiled in diplomatic sessions anymore. She had left her smile behind on Nu, along with so many other things. Colonel O taught at Earth Military Academy. His classes were attended by officers from dozens of species, all eager to learn human military strategy, but always began his lectures with the same words: "War is the failure of wisdom. Everything I teach you should be a last resort, used only when all other options have failed. If you remember nothing else, remember that." Lieutenant Shin was Admiral Shin now, commanding the border fleet that patrolled the edges of human space. Her ships watched for threats, but they also watched for opportunities to help. When disasters struck other worlds, human ships were often first to arrive with supplies and medical aid. This was deliberate policy. Humanity wanted the galaxy to see both their strength and their compassion. Commander No had spent years working through his pain. He now served on the War Crimes Tribunal, judging officers who had participated in the massacre. The work was difficult. It forced him to face the violence inside himself every day. But it also helped him understand that judgment required control, that justice required restraint. One day he would forgive the "not today," maybe not tomorrow, but someday. He worked toward that day. They were a diminished species now. Their empire was gone, their military disbanded, their population stable but not growing. Children learned about the massacre of Nu in school. They learned that their ancestors had committed terrible crimes. They learned that humans had chosen mercy when they could have chosen extinction. A young student visited the memorial world as part of required education. She walked among the monuments, reading names, looking at photographs of the dead. Near the garden section, she saw an elderly human man, the former major, who now worked as a memorial guide. She approached him nervously. "Do you hate us?" Considered the question carefully. "I hated what your people did. I hated who we almost became in response. But hate is exhausting. I chose to stop carrying it." "Why did humans not destroy us?" "Because someone had to be better. That time it was us. Next time maybe it will be someone else. The galaxy learns through suffering. We just made sure this lesson would never be forgotten." The Galactic Concord held its annual session. A new species, had requested membership. They were aggressive, proud, convinced of their superiority. Their ambassador looked at the assembled representatives with barely hidden contempt. When the human delegation entered, the ambassador laughed. "Ah, the humans. I have heard your kind was once considered gentle and weak." Ambassador, now 54 years old and wearing the diplomatic credentials she had once thrown away, turned to face him. Her expression was pleasant. Her eyes were not. "We are still gentle," she said quietly, "when we choose to be." The ambassador stopped laughing. Something in her voice, something in the way every other species in the room had gone silent, told him he had made a mistake. "The Concord welcomes all species who follow our laws," continued. "Those laws now include strict prohibitions against genocide. Any species that violates these laws faces immediate and overwhelming response from all member worlds." She smiled. It did not reach her eyes. "We wrote those laws ourselves, after we learned what happens when they do not exist." The ambassador sat down without another word. In the archives of the Galactic Concord, humanity's entry had been rewritten. The old text, which called humans an emerging species, non-threatening, suitable for integration, was gone. The new text was shorter and more accurate. Do not mistake their patience for weakness. Do not mistake their mercy for inability. Do not mistake their civilization for softness. Humanity chooses to be civilized. They do not have to be. On the memorial world of Nu, Admiral Park finished his walk among the monuments. He held his hands as he stopped one last time before his daughter's name. "We did not forget you," he whispered. "We will never forget you, and because of you, the galaxy will never forget either." He turned and walked toward the garden where knelt among flowers. The two old men sat together in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the memorial. They had lived through darkness. They had chosen not to become darkness, and in that choice, they had taught the galaxy a lesson that would echo through the stars for generations. Some lessons are written in books, some lessons are carved in stone, but the most important lessons are written in the hearts of those who survive. Humanity had survived, and they had made sure that everyone would remember why.